county morgue can be a pretty grim and depressing place, especially on a slow, boring death day. Even the simplest things, such as a routine autopsy, can produce results so shocking that even seasoned pathologists are freaked out at what they find. Which brings us to the average-sized, pale, lanky, long-haired young man lying on the table. Say hello to Jeff, also known as Jeff the Killer. And you're wondering, is Jeff dead? Maybe karma stepped in and sealed his fate. Just a few days ago, a copycat killer declared war on Jeff, a 20-something, dark-haired young lady named Jane. She was twice as sadistic as Jeff, but with only one weakness. She could never harm children, women, or young lovers. So, did she kill Jeff? You're going to find out. Jeff wandered out into the night mysteriously, as he arrived to inject a random hospital patient with an air-filled syringe and leaving them to succumb an air embolism. Doctors and nurses found the patient with a piece of duct tape over his mouth to prevent him from screaming or calling for help. As Jeff was heading deeper into the city limits, he noticed a man on the side of a lone neighbourhood road checking under the hood of his car, as if trying to fix a problem he had encountered. Jeff silently approached the motorist from behind and closed the lid on the poor man's head, decapitating him in the process. He walked off and thought nothing more about it. After all, Jeff had no regard for human life or the blood he spilled. That's just who he was. That's what made him. With no other place to go, Jeff thought it might be nostalgic to revisit and spend the night in his childhood home where he grew up and, later on, claimed his first victims, his brother Lou and his parents, Margaret and Peter. When Jeff arrived outside his home, he noticed a condemned sign posted on a door by the city. The foundation looked vacant and derelict from the outside, but once Jeff picked up the key he had always kept under the rug, which was now covered in a blanket of dirt and dust, accompanied by a few random cockroaches crawling out. If Jeff was the first one to get home before his parents or brother did, he always let himself in with a spare house key his folks got for him. After Jeff opened the door to examine how his home looked, he noticed everything was still the same and left intact. Even the telltale signs of where he got burned during a fight with Randy were still preserved. The moonlight from outside beamed in through Jeff's kitchen window and faintly illuminated the counter and living room. The TV and furniture in the living room remained undisturbed, even the plastic plants which added a civilized touch to Jeff's domain. Jeff expected the power to be out in the entire house, but to his astonishment, the digital alarm clock in Lou's old bedroom glowed an eerie, pretty blue, showing the correct time and date.
Shh, just go to sleep,
was what Jeff heard in his mind, echoing, becoming faint as he remembered everything that happened. A part of him just wanted to cry over the loss of his brother, but the killer inside of him felt no remorse. The blood on the wall was now dry, looking like someone had smeared fecal matter on the walls. As Jeff was about to explore the rest of the house, he came across his dad's old liquor cabinet and pulled himself out a bottle of Jack Daniels, a stub of glass, and went to the freezer to get some ice. He poured the whiskey and began drinking. Who would go through all this trouble not to have the power shut off? Doesn't the city order a house which is condemned to have its power cut off and its water discontinued? Jeff thought to himself. Something didn't seem right, but he didn't care. It was already 3:50 AM, and as Jeff sat in a total dark silence, drinking his whiskey, an unknown female voice spoke out of nowhere. It seemed to know Jeff.
Jeffrey, is that you, honey?
Jeff recognised the voice. It was soothing and gentle. It was far too familiar. What followed next was a fibre optic lamp being turned on, and the identity of the speaker being revealed. It was Jeff's mum, Margaret.
Mommy?
Jeff spoke as though he were a frightened child who just got out of a nightmare, and sought comfort from his mother.
Yes, baby, it's me,
she said very softly, her words burrowing through Jeff's black heart.
I thought you were... you.
Jeff stammered and trailed off thought.
Shh, it's okay, my sweet son. You were just having a bad dream. Mommy didn't die,
she said, now consoling Jeff.
I didn't mean to kill you, or Dad. I'm sorry, Mommy. I'm sorry,
Jeff pleaded.
Jeff, your father and I know you too well. We know you would never do anything to hurt us. The only thing you ever killed us with was your kindness.
Jeff sniffled, his breath reeking of booze, but His mother didn't care.
Really?
Really?
Margaret replied, calming her son down, stroking his hair gently.
I'm gonna go check on your brother, and I'll come tuck you in. You just finish your whiskey and go lay down on the couch, son. You've had a long night.
Just as Margaret was ready to cover up Jeff with a very comfortable antique quilt that she ordered off the internet, Jeff asked his mum a question, but as she was about to reply, she vanished into thin air. What the hell just happened? Was Jeff experiencing a false awakening? From the looks of things, he was. Jeff was just about ready to nod off until his father Peter came in, brandishing a big iron rolling pin, his gut still dangling where his son had disemboweled him, and in a low, gruff voice, he said,
Go to sleep.
And struck Jeff right in the skull. Jeff woke up screaming and gasping, but he was alright. He was still in his house, and everything was still in place. He had just rolled off the couch and wiped the sweat from his face. He was about to head out at the crack of dawn, and then the phone rang.
Who the hell could that be?
He asked himself. The caller ID displayed the name. Lou.
Hello? Lou? Is that you? I thought you were dead.
The phone rings again.
Hello?
I'm coming for you, Jeff.
Who is this?
In order to maintain his anonymity, Jeff goes into a bar and sits in the darkest corner, where he could only see the other pool players and bar patrons. Jeff had a few $100s that he took from his dad's nightstand. He was saving it for something important, but by now, Jeff had no clue and didn't care what was important. A big, tall, burly bartender, late 50s looking, like he was a former biker, still sporting a professional wrestler's body, goes over to where Jeff is sitting. He can't see Jeff's face because he's sitting in total darkness, but a beer sign from behind illuminates his outline.
What can I get you, son?
He asked in a gruff voice, making himself comfortable at the booth. He replied in a calm but eerie voice.
Pitcher of base. Bottle of Jim Beam, please.
On the rocks or just with the shot glass?
Shot glass.
Jeff responded. The bartender returned with a 64-ounce pitcher of base beer with a frosted glass and a brand of new bottle Jim Beam with a single shot glass.
There you go, partner.
The bartender said.
How much do I owe you?
It's biker week, so it's on the house.
As Jeff passed the time, getting shit-ass wasted and enjoying himself, the bartender got a phone call.
Uh-huh. Who? Hold on, we'll see if he's in.
The bartender announced.
Phone call for Jeff. Looking for a Jeff?
The bartender took over his cordless phone over to where Jeff was sitting.
Who is it?
Jeff asked, now wasted and more confused than ever.
Hello? 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 Hello?
He didn't get a response. But he did find out who was calling him. At the far end of the building, a beautiful woman who was wearing a blind man's sunglass and decked out in all black looked over at Jeff, grinning maliciously, taunting him, her iPhone glowing in her hand. She waved at Jeff. Who was this woman? She left a few dollar bills on the bar counter and walked off with her phone. By the end of the evening, Jeff was in no shape to get back to his hellish home, so he stumbled out of the tavern and decided to check into a ratty motel for the night. Once inside, a prostitute approached Jeff and announced that she wanted to have sex with him for $50. Not too expensive. Jeff spared the hooker a Benjamin and they both went to his room. And while she was getting undressed, Jeff, for, as usual, no apparent reason, snapped her neck and walked off, thinking no more about it. The last words the hooker ever heard before she died was...
Go to sleep.
Jeff pulled up the hood of his white hoodie, so his facial features would be obscured and hidden in the shadows. As Jeff strolled on through the night into a bad part of town, he noticed a few homeless people sleeping in front of what appears to be the entrance of a now abandoned warehouse. A beautiful young Asian woman, the same age as he was, a bald-headed muscular black man in his late 40s sitting with a woman who appeared to be his wife, a Latina girl who was sporting fresh bruises as a result of being a domestic violence victim, A man in his late 70s, touching a bottle of wild Irish rose and singing drunkenly to himself and not caring about what's going on. And a young man with a bottle of tequila, lost in thought, muttering to himself. Jeff couldn't tell who it was, until he heard a familiar voice speak up.
Go to sleep, huh?
The voice said, slightly drunkenly. The man glanced up at Jeff. It was Lou.
Lou? I can't believe it.
Jeff said, flabbergasted.
Believe it or not, bro. Man, my side still hurts like a motherfucker after you stabbed me. But there's one thing you forgot. If you were going to stab anyone, let alone your own flesh and blood, do it in a vital area, not a non-vital, dumbass.
Lou proclaimed drunkenly. Jeff was almost at a loss for words, and not because of what his brother said. The smell of the 70-year-old man was burning Jeff's nostrils and about to make him puke.
Lou, I'm sorry I tried to kill you. But how did I stop myself from bleeding, you ask? Well, while Mom and Dad were asleep, I went to our kitchen, turned on one of the gas burners, and cauterized it. A little something I learned from watching a few episodes of ER, House, and some of those other medical shows you came across. It hurt like hell, but I'm alright.
He got up, still staggering from the tequila he was drinking, lifted up his shirt, and showed his brother the place on his side.
I didn't mean Jeff. It's alright. I knew you were just fucking with me. Remember when you kicked those guys' asses for me, bro? That's when to kill. Not to kill your own brother. But it was an accident. You didn't mean to stab me. Don't worry about it.
Lou said, stumbling over, laughing.
So you forgive me?
Jeff asked.
Dude, of course I do. Stop worrying, for God's sake. There's nothing in the world that would stop me from loving my brother.
Lou said as he gave his brother a bro hug.
That's always good to know. Love you, buddy. Back at you.
Lou watched Jeff depart into the night. As his white hoodie faded from view, Lou spoke softly to himself, without the other participants hearing around him.
But you sure as hell aren't going to
love what's in store for you, you son of a bitch.
The left side of Lou's face bled slightly, but as he wiped his hand over the blood, the wound seemed to close up and disappear, without a trace. Jeff was completely oblivious to the mindfuckery he had just been through, and from the looks of things, Lou was not his usual self. He never would have responded to Jeff so kindly and forgiven him for what he had done.